Are we on the air today? Yes, we are, because that is the name of the show. Welcome. I am Sam de Leve, and this is our Children of Éarte after show, where I get to squeak with hypersonic excitement about everything that's going on in the show, and our guests can finally spill all of those things they've held back during the last few episodes. And our guest tonight has the most secrets for us to pry from her lips. It is Deborah Ann Woll, the game master of Children of Éarte,
Hello,
architect,
everyone.
and principal engineer of our story locomotive. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk. I'm going to be as stingy as possible, though. Pry as much as you may. I am well trained.
PvP has now commenced, but before we can enter that honorable interrogation combat, I am contractually and near mystically obligated to mention our show's sponsors. Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms, for whom you can type code into chat for a free Electrum chest in-game. Remember, just because they're from the Forgotten Realms, they are not forgotten. And Die Hard Dice. Use code EARTE at checkout for a 10% discount on clicky-clacky math rocks to make your goblin heart very happy. We will be doing a giveaway in chat during the stream and doing our utmost not to go into the chat and try to get ourselves more dice. We don't need more dice. Do you need more dice?
Me? No. And I'm not very suspicious about dice. So I'm not a big like, oh my gosh, all my dice have betrayed me. I need new ones. I'm kind of like, oh, cool. My dice are rolling low. Fun. You know.
They are a reward, no matter which direction they roll.
It's fun. It's very fun.
But if you have gripping questions like these, remember, you too can ask Deborah what the actual heckity heck is up with that door, for instance, by asking your question with question in all caps in chat. I cannot guarantee that I will yell the word question at her just purely for the sake of our audio, but we are going to try to sprinkle in a couple of your questions along with mine own. So let's start, and please just tell me how you found these first 3 episodes.
Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for your background. It's perfect and lovely, and I I love seeing the train station in the background is wonderful. So thank you for the homage, and thank you for doing this.
It was a schlep to get here.
I'm sure it was. Yes, it's hard. You got to bring all your equipment into a train station. It's a whole thing.
Paint everything black and white.
But thank you very much for doing this and hosting this, Sam. That means so much to me, and I appreciate that you're, spearheading this part of the project. So thank you.
Oh, woe is me.
So those first 3 episodes. So I'm first of all relatively new to this like weekly live stream thing. So I'm very used to like keeping things moving and like make sure you end within the time limit. And it's a one shot usually, so you got to get that conclusion in. So this has been interesting. I, of course, way over prepared. So even Josh, our producer, will giggle along with me because I gave him like cues for sound and handouts and things. And I was like, we might get to these in the first one. We're 3 in, we haven't gotten to like 90% of what I sent him yet, and I didn't send him that much yet either. But so I anticipated a different sort of speed on this thing. But what's been fantastic is how much these players can make of small moments, right? The little moments like seeing the face in the window, or meeting an NPC, or having champagne and chocolates becomes such a fascinating little character set. So I'm really I'm enjoying the show I get to watch every Tuesday night.
What will my players do next? So you started them off in a train station, and I'm curious, are you a train person? What inspired this training montage?
So I am. I do really like trains, and I especially like vintagey things, vintagey trains and so forth. And it's we all have that, I think, or many of us have that sort of trope in our minds that, Hogwarts Express, whatever it is. We have that excitement inside of us. And I wanted to also, you spoke of your love of puns. There's that idea of railroading or putting your players on tracks, and that made me laugh when I thought of it. So I was like, what if I literally railroaded them and put them on tracks? But I also have this idea that any adventure, if we base an adventure on kind of the simple 5-room dungeon, right? That's kind of your foundation. But a 5-room dungeon can be anything. It can be the side of a cliff. It can be caves. It can be a dungeon, or it could be 5 cars with train. So the idea being that this is essentially a dungeon on wheels. There are traps, there are puzzles, there are battles, there are all kinds of things that are hiding in this train. Plus, you're going 70 miles an hour through the winter woodlands. So that's going to be fun. And I did a lot of research about trains. My brother and I went to the LA train museum, and I, took pictures of all the engines, and I learned how steam locomotives work and all kinds of things like that. Now, this is gamified, so if we get into any of that in the game, please nobody at me for my for my gamified knowledge. But I'm hoping, I like to teach and to learn while I'm playing. So I'm hoping that in some small way, this will maybe be a way people can get interested in old trains and how they work.
Did you pick up new train facts in this research
I did.
process?
I absolutely did. I watched a whole bunch of documentaries on the Flying Scotsman, which is a famous, UK UK train that, vintage train that they've restored. And it's a beautiful, beautiful train. There's something called a pass-through tender that I'm really interested in. I don't think I'm going to use it in Children of Éarte, which is why I will share it with you now. But a pass-through tender is the idea that on long-haul trips, the crew, if they needed to get to the engine and change shifts while the train is still moving, the tender is where you keep the wood or coal and the water. And they made one that has this tiny little tunnel that goes through the container, through the tender container. It's about, I think they said 12 inches wide and 5 feet tall. So you are just squeezing through this little tunnel to get from the back to the engine. And so that's so cool. And so I was doing a bunch of research on pass-through tenders. But yeah, it's fascinating.
Oh my, I can see why that might appeal as a game setting.
Right? Wouldn't it? And the fact that Silas went up on top first episode is fascinating to me, because I was hoping someone would do that. I wasn't anticipating it that early on, but I do think there's this we mistake train travel. We think, oh, it's safe, it's something, but those trains go 60, 70 miles an hour when they're up to speed, and that is not easy. In the movies, you see people running around on top of trains all the time. That's impossible. So another really big inspiration of mine is, one of my favorite books is The Great Train Robbery by Michael Crichton, which is a train robbery that takes place in Victorian England. And same thing, he underestimates what it's like. He goes up there and gets covered in soot. It's very hard to get away with a robbery when you look like something ridiculous happened to you.
So you've heard it here first, folks.
Yeah.
Don't run on top of trains.
It's dangerous. It's extraordinarily dangerous. And I wanted it to be so for Silas in that first one. These are squishy little first level characters. So for him to take that risk, I will give you the behind the scenes on that. Already on this adventure, I think 3 or 4 times people have been down to 1 hit point. In fact, I will say, I believe 1 is right now. Like where we are in our cliffhanger at the moment, one of our characters has 1 hit point. So we have already brought them to the brink a couple of times here.
You know what? That is exactly as many hit points as you really need. Anything else is just icing, right?
Exactly. You just need the 1.
You just need the 1. You're fine. You're fine. Don't even worry about it. So despite it being a vintage train, it has been updated, and this is set, unlike so many games, in the modern day. And I think you even mentioned at one point, if someone's nervous about running things in the modern day, don't be. You got Goggle on their smartphones, all sorts of. I can't wait to hear more of those. But seriously, what inspired you to juxtapose vintage train and modern setting?
That's interesting. I think this it started out with wanting it to be human commoners in the real world. And today, or I'm calling it the present, because I'm not going to make them wear masks or hand sanitizer. It's the present. that was sort of where we started. And then I think I got the inspiration for the train kind of as I was putting together the actual story. And then I thought it would be more fun if it was vintage. And then, I think from some of the hints we've gotten so far, we are talking about events that occurred in the past that are still sort of affecting and influencing their experience upon this train. So it needed to be an old train so that it could have some history.
Perfect. So have you thus far been validated in your hypothesis that modern is not disrupted? Any advice to folks about who might be considering this or be wary of it?
Sure. I mean, I would treat Goggle, the internet, as you would a library, right? If they're in a town, they would have, let's say it's the Forgotten Realms and they're in a city. If they have access to a library, they have access to everything that the Goggle would have, for their world. So, some of it is still asking them to roll. So even though you and I are very good at the Goggle in our everyday lives, things like inaccurate reporting, right? Like sometimes, Wikipedia is a, everyone contributes. So we don't always know how accurate a Wikipedia article is going to be. Sometimes you'll spell a name wrong and you won't be able to find the person. So I know you look shocked. So I think remembering that even in our modern world, it's not perfect, and it's not, it's still, information can still be hard to come by, and you have those tools at your disposal. And I, without spoiling too much, obviously they only have Wi-Fi when they are on the train. They have, as you noticed, I'm sure, they do not have cell reception. So should they decide to stray from the train for any reason, we will be back to just their own personal knowledge. So I think putting some limits like that. I think also the fact that it's a vintage train helped me out, because there's not cameras or keypads or, things that kind of more modern technology that sometimes can be difficult to get around. But again, I still say with some, good brainstorming and creativity, you could probably do anything.
I have no doubt. So, to that effect, we do have some Twitter questions that came in earlier. One seeming in particular relevant to this. Cassius355 asked whether Children of Éarte uses Arcana skill, technology skill, or both.
I'm just using investigation for Goggle searches, essentially. Arcana can certainly come into play. They all have Arcana stats. I think the interesting thing for this is that since we are playing, the instruction that I gave to the characters, to the players, there is magic in this world, right? But sometimes we categorize it differently, right? Oh, my friend, she never loses anything. Somehow she just seems to know where things are, right? We cast it off, oh, that person's amazing at sports. They're barely trained, right? But somehow just naturally they have that ability. Yeah, so we already have these things that make us special and unique and magical. But in the real world, we don't see it as magic. We see that as just talent, or something you were born with, or even things that you've trained for. So I encourage them that obviously there will be magic and there will be things of other worlds in this story, but that for whatever class they chose, that they incorporate real world justifications for it. So the hope is that they will learn that this is magic and that they've been magic all along. But right now, no one's thinking to use an Arcana check because nobody is quite believing yet that that's really where they are. So I think you'll see more things like Arcana checks and specifically magic using down the line. Right now, it's more innately I cast this thing because it's just this thing I know how to do. And for some reason, when I pat people on the back, they just feel better about themselves. I don't know what it is. It's just my presence, right?
Well, that I think is your personality, but that's particular to you.
Well, I was talking about, if you were to cast friends on someone, let's say, it could just be an innate, you don't really know how you do it yet. So they will level up, their characters will level up as their characters level up, which is pretty cool.
But I've also noticed that some of the characters are more arcanely credulous than others.
Yes. Yes.
Some seem to take to it like a duck to water, but it seems like you've left room for skepticism within
Yeah.
the characters. Magic is real, but also some might look for reality show explanations.
Yeah. Well, we talked a little bit about like I always joke about the Mulder Scully line, right? So like, are you the Mulder who believes,
Yeah.
or are you the Scully who's like, I need evidence, right? And both are valuable. We need both in our world, and we need both to find our way to credibility and truth. Um, so some of the conversations with the players is like, where are you on that spectrum? Are you ready to believe in magic, or do you need someone to sort of prove it to you first? And so I think they've been doing a wonderful job of sort of leaning into whichever side of that spectrum that they exist on, and hopefully they'll all kind of get closer and closer to both as the story goes on.
Have any of them within that spectrum broken a direction that you didn't expect?
Hmm. Well, it is, Maeve, with her sort of history of for fairy tales and folk tales and things like that, because the character that she presented to me was, a party girl and kind of a insightful and sort of aloof, and had a little bit of a thing with drinking, and so I kind of thought that would lean more to the skeptic side, because she always seems to sort of have an eye on everything going on. So I think to bring in that folklore element from her background is such a great contrast. And yeah, I'm so curious to see how Jen plays with that going forward.
It's been almost as much a delight as her consistent motivation to ensure that no one believes the same thing that she does.
Yes.
The commitment
Yes.
to the trick.
She's it's going to be very interesting, the pranking. We were just talking about like how do you pull off a prank in D&D and actually potentially have the other characters not know, or whatever it is. So we're going to see, maybe we can pull some things over. We're going to come up with some plans maybe.
I mean, if there is a thing to be yoinked, these players do seem quite committed to
Yes,
having
they
yoinked
are.
it.
They are.
By the end of the game, everyone's inventory will have gone in a musical chair around each other.
I imagine so. I imagine so. And that's been another fun thing about this is equipment, right? So one of the, again, when we had our player DM conversations, we talked about like, hey, what's your equipment? Because it's probably not going to be pitons and and hammers and so forth. So a number of people sat down and wrote very extensive lists about the things that they would bring. And I said, think about your character. If you were going on a week-long vacation, what would you bring? You'd bring the things you need, but you'd also bring the things that were very special to you. And then I told them, hey, the train is taking you on excursions, so they're going to have some supplies on board as well. So things that they're used to having, like rope and things like that, they have to get their hands on it, but it will exist somewhere at some point.
There you are. Rope does exist.
Rope
Our
exists
friendly GM has
in Children of Éarte. I won't tell you where it is, but it does exist.
So we had a lovely question from Fallen Angel to that effect, because it
Yeah.
seemed like people's everyday carry was featuring so prominently, particularly once they got on the train. So
Yeah.
Fallen Angel wanted to know whether your handbag looks like Neb's or Fairuza's, just the what you need, the Robins, everything you
Yes,
might need,
that's
including
hilarious.
kitchen sink, or Maeve, Silas, like packed with special items, just in case you get recruited by the CIA. You never know.
Right. You never know. They could come knocking on your door at any time. This whole thing could just be a CIA, test, right?
There's no proof it isn't.
It's like MIB, right? They'd have to fool you into auditioning. Men in Black, right? Remember the whole testing
It
sequence?
explains everything about Maeve. I get it now. Thank you. Thank you for this reveal.
So my personal, I like to go more minimal. Like, I don't even have a wallet. I just have one of those little like single, holds a couple of dollar bills and a credit card and a driver's license thing. I have a very small, very old bag that's falling apart. I'm going to have to get someone to repair it soon. I'm a bullet journaler, so I have my bullet journal. that I take everywhere with me, which is a notebook and a pen, and then my phone. I'm a very like chapstick, maybe, I don't know. I'm a minimal everyday carry kind of person. I'm not a big bag person. Yeah.
Anything in particular you think you might take care had you been invited onto the train?
Like what my most important item bring would be. Well, definitely the bullet journal. I mean, I love that thing. It has my entire life in it. I sort of need it to settle down every day at night, and I need it to get myself kickstarted in the morning. It's got all my notes for all of the different D&D shows. It's got all of my notes for the different plays and movies and auditions and everything that I do. So it's it's everything there. So yeah, that's probably it.
That's mildly terrifying in an adventure setting. Here's my essential item.
Life. It has everything I need. It has the entire history of my life. That's the really fun thing about Bullet. Obviously, I just bring the current one, but like I have books from 12 years ago now, where I can go back and be like, yeah, on April 5th in 2010, I was doing this,
That's such cool. An archive.
Yeah, it's nice. It's very cool.
But if you were an adventurer, you would be giving your DM incredible ammunition.
I would. I mean, they would try to get me to lose it, I'm sure, or get it stolen or something like that. Yeah, I wouldn't tell them. I'd just be like, I have a notebook. It's just a notebook. And sometimes I go to it to, learn things. I don't know.
So you don't deliberately arm them. Have your players, have they been giving you, here, please have this gift wrap thing you can hurt me with later?
Well, I'm also, I mean, people have called me like diabolical and things like that. I don't think of myself as that at all. I mean, I hit hard for sure, but I'm very generous with like, I'm not looking to blow up your game at all. If you have something creative and awesome to do, I'm not looking to stop you from using it. I want to present you with every opportunity possible to use it. So I'm, if someone were to tell me that they had a book like that, I'd be like, oh, cool. What are some ways that, you would be inclined to use that to make sure that I set up opportunities where you can. So yes, I have sort of a different, I'm not a big thwart to my players kind of DM. I am I want you to shine. I really want all of your ideas to be catered to.
Has there been anything that they've given you that feels deliberate? Like I hope you don't throw me in this briar patch.
I mean, I have to put that more in myself, and you'll learn more about this as we go on. But I asked all of them to have an item along the lines of a magic item, but this is not a magic item. This is just, if it has any magic at all, it's what it means to them, the value that it carries to them personally. The magic is their relationship to this item. So we have not yet seen or heard of all of them yet. Some of them have been hinted at. So that was my way of being like, here, make something very important to you. And hopefully they will get to be surprised as the adventure goes on, as sort of how those items play into the story.
I confess I was terribly delighted, especially in that sort of modern flavored setting, to start to see some of these items. Robin's hearing aid.
Yes,
absolutely delighted me. Can you say, for the benefit of our audience, what that was and what's going on under the hood to any extent?
So I'll have to double check, so don't hold me to this, but I believe it's a comprehend languages sort of, item, or she might have a spell that allows her to do that. And this is her sort of, like I said, I asked everyone to come up with justifications, come up with real world things. So for her, she puts this her hearing aid in and goes, oh, it just helps me hear. It doesn't necessarily register with her that it's being translated, which I think is really interesting. Because again, if no one double checks that for you, how would you know? So I'll have to look it up and make sure that I'm getting that right. But that's what I understand it to be, and how she's using it. But there are definitely a couple of times where like when she used her compact mirror, I was like, so is this a special Is this like a detect magic compact mirror, or is this just you trying a thing? And so sometimes we're skating around how to talk about magic without talking about magic.
It's been a delight though, and for all we know, Robin worked as a translator at the UN.
Yeah, of course. She has had many professions in her many years, and so yeah, she very well could it just helps her hear it better, and she's translating.
Right, she already knows all of those languages. She's very gifted. It's very well.
Extraordinarily gifted.
So, what other curveballs have your players managed to throw at you in just 3 episodes?
Curveballs. Well, they became much more obsessed with Room A faster than I thought that they would. I knew I was setting up. Sorry, my computer's gonna die here. I knew I was setting up a mystery, obviously. But I guess there was a part of me that was like, oh, well, they'll want to try something when they have like privacy or like stuff like that. But they were like, no, right for it. It was too big a hook for them to leave alone. And so I really thought they wouldn't attempt it until much later at night. So that was a curveball, but I was excited about it because it meant we got right.
Expect it?
Not right away. I guess I assumed because I'm such a like, oh, I'm sorry, I won't get in your way, kind of person, that I was like in a modern world on a train where there are crew members.
Sure,
you wouldn't just start trying to break into rooms.
Propriety.
Right? You'd be like, oh, okay, that room doesn't open. It's not my room, but they went right for it. Which again, blame me, because I was like, take risks. I always, fortune always favors the bold in my games. Go for it. Again, I'm never going to penalize you for trying something spectacular. You might not succeed at it, but like I'm never going to like kill you because you tried something amazing. So
one hit point, but
one hit point. Death saving throws.
Exactly.
What's that? So yeah, so I take full responsibility for for putting myself in that position.
You are known as a puzzle GM.
I guess so,
and your players know you're known as a puzzle GM.
And
I'm not saying a mischievous GM might take advantage of such a reputation by, I don't know, putting them in front of a locked door, say, oh, locked door right there, and then slowly letting them whittle their hit points down against it.
They touched it so much. I was so excited that Fairuza was going to maybe hit it with her axe. I was like, yes, do it. Do it. That's what this door was built for. And then Silas talked her out of it. But yeah, I mean, that's, that was a fun trap to come up with. I felt that the idea that I can't hack my way through this door because I will then hack my way through myself is kind of a wonderful deterrent. And are you willing to risk it? Do you think you have more hit points than the door? It's sort of an interesting conundrum to put people in.
Are you feeling hardy?
Yeah. Huh? How hard did you feel? Fight my door. Go ahead, fight it.
There you go. Hashtag fight my door.
Fight my door.
Children of Éarte.
Now they're gonna fight smoke. So there you go. I put them.
What will they enter combat with next?
What will they? We fought a door first, and now they're in a tiny little compartment filled with fog and some sort of presence or presences.
It's fine. Everything is going very, very well.
Oh yeah, the train suddenly stopped. Not suspicious at all.
Surely not. But I do also love. Are you intentionally hitting all of these role-playing game memes? Because you mentioned at the top the rails and the railroad being fairly infamous, and I think even Silas obliquely cited the meme role that doors have played in RPGs, and my goodness gracious, it's they really have gone up against that door.
It's a fun door. Yeah, I definitely wanted the door to be hard but doable. And it was one of those interesting things where they maybe kind of needed more information before they maybe knew enough to get through it. But they were able to get there with some of the help of the presences. But yeah, I mean, I don't know that I'm intentionally pulling those out. I think it is in my nature, however, to use cues, storytelling cues, right? So we know where we are when we have vintage train, when we have vicious, doors that are secret and locked, when we have disappearances, things like that. We get a very clear idea of the genre of this particular story, of what we're up against. And so I do like to use things like that to kind of put people in the mood, and then hopefully turn those tropes on their head so that things are still unexpected.
Well, I do think that they handled the door in an unexpected way. The window.
Yeah. The reflection across the way. I was excited when Silas called it the mirror pane door, because the reflection is a very important part of figuring that door out. And so so I and I tried to draw their attention to the window with the dancing blue lights. I'm trying to give them hints wherever I can to kind of be like, pay attention over here, like, ooh. But yeah, that's one of my bigger sort of puzzle tips, is to have lots of clues, have lots of ways that you can help draw attention to the way that they can solve it for themselves. So without full on giving them the answer, rather than like rolling an investigation check, that you have to say Ivy to get the door open, help them find the path themselves so they succeed at it. But it feels well fought, well earned.
Yeah, I know that I've always heard video game level designers talk about lights as a way of guiding focus.
Yeah, sure.
I've never seen someone do that with little blue will-o-wisps.
Yeah. Well, we don't know if they're will-o-wisps, but yes, that type of little thing. We don't. Maeve thinks they might be. But yeah. Using anything you can to just kind of be like, gentle arrows. Here, look. Check it out. Just do a little roll over here, kind of thing. Yeah.
And so with all of that prep, you have these hints, you parcel them out, and then you sit back and you wait to see what they're going to do to the door?
Yeah,
because it did not look like you were going to save them from the consequences of their own actions.
Oh no, it kind of worked out as perfectly as it could, because it hurt them a lot. They were totally stymied by it, but enthralled with it. They were suspicious of everyone else on the train.
Yeah.
I mean, Silas almost killed himself trying to figure out more information about it. And I laughed at them later, where I was like, I mean, if the train would have stopped tomorrow, you could have gone outside tomorrow, but they could not go to sleep before they got some answers, it's just amazing. So I think it happened in the perfect way. It hurt them as much as I needed it to, for them to take it like, whoa, there's something important back here, right? Like, this wouldn't be defended this way unless there was a reason. And then it just sort of happened at just the right time, after a little bit of a short rest, to help them get back into a hardier place, that I then had an opportunity to help give them an extra clue, which got them in. So it's kind of, that's how I hope that puzzles will work. It stymies you for just enough time. It penalizes you just enough, but then you find the answer, and suddenly you have a whole new area to explore and be curious about.
I've never been more pleased to watch a bunch of role players throw themselves at a door in vain. What a delight.
I kept touching it, and they're like, "Ooh," scratching my back, and then the flame, and then it's so funny.
Yeah, we lick the science. We know that now about these.
Absolutely, lick the science. It's very helpful to lick the science. You learn a lot by licking the science. Yeah.
You may not always like what you learn, but You
But you
sure will learn something.
I do hope if anyone is inspired by this adventure, it is Neb licking that door. I hope that everyone licks every door in every campaign. That should become the new don't split the party, always go to the left, always lick the door.
Climb every mountain, lick every door.
New adage, new D&D adage right there.
Clip it, kids. But you also alluded to something else delightful that seems unexpected, namely the wild suspicion of everyone on this train.
I know. They don't trust any of my NPCs. I thought they were so nice. All these NPCs are so nice. What's the matter?
Maybe that's why.
Maybe
nice.
they're too they're caught up in D&D world where you can't trust anybody. But this is just a luxury train.
It's just see, you can't with the one side of your mouth. It's just a luxury train, and with the other side, mirror pane door.
Yeah, it's just a luxury train. Of course they're going to be nice to you. Whoever bought you your ticket paid big bucks for them to be nice to you. That's all. Come on.
Oh no, see, I wasn't suspicious before. I am now. Gosh darn it.
Well, as I was joking to you before, my NPCs are all like sort of just different aspects of myself. So, there's the Gloria with her efficiency and punctuality and, kind of running everything and needing it all to sort of stay on track. Augie, who just wants everyone to have a great time, be very comfortable. Charlie, who's willing to get down and do the hard work. Alexander, who's much more artistic and, wants to kind of create beautiful things. And you haven't met any of the other NPCs because they're off doing other things. But I think that might be an NPC tip as well, sort of like finding different aspects of yourself to help you kind of create your world of NPCs.
Of the ones we have met so far, was there anyone in particular that you were excited to introduce to the group? Like,
well, Augie. I mean, I love that little accent. That's such a fun one to do. I'm not very good at accents. I don't have a ton of them in my back pocket, but that's a fun one. It drifts sometimes, but I don't mind. But I really like her a lot. I think she's cool and funky, and I like that she wants to be a conductor. She's working her way up, and she knows about trains. She's a train buff and little nerdy. She's a train nerd like myself. It's always really fun to create characters who are unabashedly themselves, right? Who just are who they are and are excited about it.
Just as satisfying, I think, as in real life.
Yes.
Gosh, it sure is nice to be unabashedly yourself. See, that's even better advice than licking doors, chat. Look
there
at
you
everything
go.
we're learning here.
Be unabashedly yourself. Yes.
So I'm going to pull a question from chat real quick from To Play is Human.
Yay.
Which is that if it is not spoilery, what is your favorite folk tale, and is it a tale that you grew up with or something you heard later in life?
Oh no, a favorite folk tale. It is a little spoilery. Do I care is the question.
It's the after show.
It is the after show. I don't know that it'll ruin anything because the whole point is to take the story and do unexpected things with it. All right, go read The Snow Queen by Hans Christian Andersen.
We have homework. I'm not familiar with that one at all.
Good.
Excellent. I look forward to finding out how this pertains in a terrified sort of way. Are you also a folktale or fairy tale nerd?
I mean, it's definitely my aesthetic, I would say. Folktales for grown-ups has always been my sort of general aesthetic. Because I think, I like the darker, scarier versions of those fairy tales. I like the ones that are freaky. I've been very interested in Vaesen, which is a new RPG that's come out this year. I love it so much. So that's been a fun one. That's right up my alley, kind of mystery folk tales in real world sort of thing. I don't know that I can call myself a nerd about it. I don't know enough, but I do enjoy them. And so a lot of my just for fun reading will be things like that. And I mean, the fact is, what's incredible is that every culture in the world has them, right? We're not, obviously, I'm talking about some of the more European folk tales and so forth, but every culture you could imagine has a wealth of stories that they have been telling for centuries. And you can find them all over. I mean, I remember growing up with like Anansi the Spider was one of like my favorite books when I was a kid, which is the African folk tale of the trickster spider guy, and it's just a great wealth of storytelling and what's the lesson teaching that so much about folk tales and fairy tales are about learning how to be a good person and a good member of the community. And so yeah, I just love them for all the reasons.
This makes me even more excited for everything that we're going to meet in subsequent episodes. So do you think there are things that you have laid in thus far that our players have missed?
Oh, yeah.
That was the fastest yes I've ever heard.
Yep.
My goodness gracious.
Josh is nodding. Josh knows. He knows nothing about my story, but he already I gave him things that he's like, they didn't find this. So, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. But
you had mentioned that, like Gloria, you are extremely prepared, that there are a superfluity of materials.
I'm trying to be a little more go with the flow on this particular one, just because I do think this is a long adventure, and I want them, while I'm putting them on train tracks, I want that train to be as open a sandbox as possible. So and this particular, I gave them a map on the very first episode, so they have a sense of where they are and the things that they can expect. I think that that's important to sort of build a little anticipation, that who knows, maybe in a year, maybe in a week, we might be on the Bell Castle Cap, right? So we don't know. But I wanted that in the back of their mind, these adventures we could have, right? So, a train, this is a big train, and there's a lot of rooms and a lot of little hidden areas and places they have seen 1.5 cars of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cars of this train. So, or 6, yes. I mean, they have a lot more to explore. And they've absolutely encountered things already that are clues for other things, that are, hooks for other adventures that they just haven't quite nabbed onto yet. And that's okay.
So we had a good 2.5 episodes with this one room, with this one door, and the whole train's like that.
Kind of, yeah.
And then we get off of the train, and then there's more stuff.
There's a whole world out of the train, but no Wi-Fi.
No Wi-Fi.
You only get Wi-Fi on the train. It's very important.
You have to induce them to return, and what better inducement
then they gotta check their email. Yeah, I gotta check your email. Very important.
Fairuza certainly does. Some of them are very, very linked to the world, and others seemed very willing to, we're going to go on it.
But again, how wonderful, right? That they built in those challenges or interests for themselves. I thought that was so brave of them. And again, just a great, this is a good, if you're like interested in studying up how people create characters that are engaging, and this is a really good group of people to watch for that. Because, I encourage them to like lean into flaws and lean into fears and things like that, but they didn't really need it. They were like, they came to me with ideas of like ways they could challenge their characters. So yeah, this is a good group to sort of study for that.
It's true. I really love look, I'm a fan. I'm a fan. There we go. Done. Did it. Are there any choices that they made that you were unsure of at first? Like, I don't know how this is going to play out.
I I don't know. I try not to put too much expectation on what characters will do or what players will do. So it's a little hard to be fully surprised when you haven't really.
Right, you don't have specific expectations.
I'll say this, it's more something they didn't do. So they got very, very obsessed with roommate, which is great, and I'm glad that they did. But I put a chain across a curtain that says authorized personnel only, which I thought was a big glaring like beep, beep.
You showed it
beep,
to us a couple
beep.
times too.
I said it a couple of times because I was like, guys, forbidden territory.
You can't go here,
You're not allowed to go past this.
You'd better not.
This chain across the curtain, But again, like that's a little unexpected that I mean, maybe not, maybe I shouldn't be surprised, but that the room has gripped them so much more than that. And again, there's no order in which any of this has to be completed. So it doesn't bother me whichever way they decide to go. But I was surprised that there wasn't at least someone marking it and saying, I'm going to come back later, or pointing it out or something along those lines. But maybe because they're not suspicious enough yet. We'll see.
Right, because they are completely credulous of all of your NPCs, so surely they're very comfortable with everyone going into this authorized personnel only.
Of course.
That really is a wild combo, but that's.
I mean, I was like, I might as well put a big red button that says "Don't push this button." That's what I felt like that sign was. Don't go here.
I think they have. It is just that as is up. No one could get this room open.
No, that was. I mean, definitely the door no one can get through is always. What are you gonna do? You gotta figure that one out, right?
I mean, I'll be honest, maybe I credited the staff too much. I thought to myself, well, surely they tried the ordinary sort of things like the doorknob or picking locks. I will credit them with that.
Yeah.
I probably couldn't get through this door.
Yeah. I mean, again, that was supposed to, that's the setup. That's the idea, is to say, hey, look, everyone's tried. We don't know what it is, but this is a vintage train. We're not going to hack the door down. So that was another thing of mine when building this, was to say, if this is someplace special, you can't just smash it, right? And if there are people who work here and this is their business, again, like, you can't just smash it. You might, but you're gonna exhaust other options. You're gonna have to do that. But it can't really be or it likely will not be your first, choice to smash a door when you're like, ooh, this is a vintage thing and this is a nice place, and I don't know. So I was trying to put a little bit of that, just that little boundary there to sort of make sure that we think outside the box first.
Well, outside the box car, at least.
Exactly.
I guess. Please tell me, though, it wasn't vintage glass in that window pane in Silas's room. I worry about it now. That was replaced, right?
It might have been. That was likely replaced, yes. Likely. I imagine some of the windows will be original there, but we can say for your sake that his window
Thank you.
was an update just for you. Someone else tried this same antic and smashed it before.
So we have a lovely question from New Moonlight. How do you make sure your puzzles aren't too hard? New Moonlight once had a Lichtenberg fractal mark a door that needed to be struck by lightning to open, and the players got frustrated with not being able to figure it out. It sounds like lots of different clues are one sort of thing, but if you've gotten in and you find that you have wildly miscalibrated your puzzle, what is your swerve?
So one, I always offer investigation checks just for hints, right? Just to say, hey, you are smart enough in looking at this thing around to get a hint. I am also not the kind of person who's like, I didn't write it down, so it doesn't exist, right? Like, if that was my door and they had been exploring it and they just can't figure it out, and someone goes like, oh, fine, I'll do another investigation check. And if they roll well enough, I might say, a stone in the wall to the right of the door catches your eye. As you go over to look at it, there's a lightning bolt, etched into the stone, but discreetly. So I didn't write that in my notes, but I want you to get it. And I want you to feel like you earned it. So, go ahead, throw make a clue and just throw it in somewhere, but make them roll for it, so that there's a feeling of maybe you did write it a week ago and they just found it now, right? So you can, I am not opposed to just making it up, adding it in to give them whatever sort of boost that they need to get there, because puzzles should not be about making people feel stupid or less than. It should be the opposite. It should be about making people feel smart and engaged and successful.
And creative in their solutions.
Absolutely.
And it sounds like there are a couple levels of earning. The earning via roll, the investigation to notice the clue.
Right.
But also that it seems characteristic of your puzzle approach not to give the answer, to give the clue in exchange for a roll. Luck can get you the clue, but it can't get you the answer.
Yes, that is generally what I like. And I, again, and this is something that other DMs will disagree with me on, I will always put a player over a character. It's more important to me that players are having fun and feeling excited than that they get through the door in a timely manner or whatever, kind of thing. So I want them to have the excitement of figuring it out. So I might give you a really great clue. I might give you a clue that says, like, again, in that room with the lightning door, there's also a hole in the ceiling and you can see storm above. I might give you every step of the way there, but I want you to make the leap. So that's all. I'm just going to continue to firm up the ground beneath you so that you feel comfortable making the leap of solving the puzzle. And also, if you come up with an alternate solution, I'm going to say yes. I'm going to give it to you. If it's a good one and it works, forget my solution. I'm going to use my solution on another door and you'll have to solve it again, But if you come up with one that works, again, more important that you have fun, you feel smart, and you feel like you are successful, then I stick to my notes, kind of thing.
We can't see the notes. We don't know what the ontological answer to the puzzle ever was.
Yeah. And it's, again, thing, when people come up with other solutions to your puzzles, free puzzle.
Free puzzle.
I now get to use that puzzle somewhere else and seem extra brilliant. So I'll take it.
Reduce, reuse, recycle.
Exactly.
Have the players prompted that yet? You don't have to go into details if you don't want to. Again, reduce.
Yeah, here and there. I mean, things that like when I can say, for example, so like when Robin used the mirror, her compact mirror, to look at the door. So per the mechanics that I had worked out for the door, I couldn't really make that full on work, even though she was like right on the money, man. Like she was using a reflection to try to get the thing, but it just, for reasons I can't tell you, I couldn't actually say that was gonna work. So instead, I was like, okay, it's not a detect magic spell. I gave her that mirage hazy thing because I was like, I want you to feel that you're on the right track, that you're getting to something, that it is something about reflections. So that's not in my notes. I didn't account for that or anything like that, but I just wanted her to have a sense that you earned something by checking that out, and hopefully that'll implant in your brain that reflections are important. You're just looking in the wrong reflective device.
Just got flipped around.
Yeah, that's all.
So as we start to gently wrap up, I want to grab a question from J.L. Casey in chat about wrapping up in a game. So how important is it with your time as a GM to spend some with your players after session for discussion or calm down, or literally the opposite of that, of that was totally wicked? What does after the game look like for Children of Éarte?
The latter, is sort of always first. The kind of like, what has happened? Oh my God, I can't believe you did that. Oh, what are we gonna do? Kind of thing. And so I want to let that steam blow off real quick. Especially when you're doing a live show, I think as well, where there's a little bit of performative, not withholding, but you want to keep telling story, right? You don't want to sort of break for 5 minutes and go, oh my God, that was so cool, and break character and break, that. So they have been holding on a little bit because, Fairuza might not be as excited about something as Alicia is, and so she's holding on a little bit to that until the end of the game. So I want to give everyone a chance to blow off that steam. And then, start downloading it. And I, there's definitely things that we can talk about all together. If they have any particular, like sometimes I might ask, is there anything particularly that you are interested in that, that way I can just have a little bit of a sense of where we might be headed next time. But then I've also always opened it up to emails. And I said, if there's something you want to tell me specifically or not that the others don't have to hear or want to hear, you can always email me. And, that might be because I'm not a very like fireside chat kind of DM. And they might need to be like, hey, we need an episode where we just like sit and talk, and I can go, great.
Just a sleepover in a lounge car.
That's okay. We can make that happen. It's a week off for me, sort of. So I can let that happen. But to let me know what they're looking for out of the adventure, and I don't know if they're feeling insecure about anything or choices that they made, and it's a chance for me to reassure everyone that they're doing a great job, and that everything's flowing smoothly, and I'm excited about their choices.
Which leads me to my final question for today's episode. I know I have to leave y'all wanting more always, so you roll into the next one, but in the spirit of looking forward to that next session,
yes,
what are you hoping, in whatever vague, spoiler-friendly terms, what are you hoping for from the next session? A feeling to evoke? Or, I know we probably can't talk about plot points, but maybe we could. What do you hope to see in that next session?
2 words. Roll initiative.
Okay, that's too good. We are calling it on that. I'm going to go get my dice and add my dex modifier to something. And I am going to thank you, Deborah, for joining me for this inaugural episode.
This is so fun.
Yeah. A delight. I love learning more about these stories. I appreciate everything that you've told us, and I will never ever buy that you did not diabolically mastermind that door specifically to frustrate players for 2.5 episodes. This is a headcanon.
I did diabolically create it to stump them for 2.5 episodes. I just thought they would be like episodes 5 and 6, not 1 and 2.
So to see where our players will be diabolically stumped next, please join us for all of the weeks that aren't on the Éarte. You get to see the real deal, the genuine article, GM by Deborah Ann Woll, Children of Éarte, in this time slot on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, right here on this BAT channel, twitch.tv/Demiplane RPG, and out on YouTube. So, Deborah, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you,
Where
Sam.
can the people find you?
Oh, on all the things at my name, I'm pretty sure. I'm so bad at social media. I'm so sorry if I don't respond to you reaching out, everyone. I try to do it when I can. But it's my name, I'm pretty sure, on all platforms, and I promote this and other things that I do. And so come and see what I'm up to.
Come see what she's up to here and throughout the internet. And until then, we're going off the Éarte. Thanks for joining us.